Welcome everyone to the Coffee Talk here on our YouTube channel. Today I have a guest with me, as always, Daria Isaeva. She's a very passionate facilitator. And Daria, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. First, thanks for having me here today. Quite excited about that. Thank you, Christian. About myself, I'm a Scrum Master, team coach, life coach. I have also Agile team at home, my kids and my husband. So that's shortly about myself.
So you told me before, you don't consider yourself an expert facilitator, but more of a passionate facilitator. Tell our listeners something about facilitation. What does a facilitator do? It sounds quite abstract.
Who is it? Well, I see facilitator as someone who is there in the group. So usually there should be a group of people who want to get some outcome. And facilitator is someone who is neutral and keeping the group focused on this outcome. And this person is looking at the rules, agenda is defined, participants know why they're there, and mainly focusing everyone on efficiently reaching the goal of the meeting or whatever it is. Yeah.
Okay. So when was the last time that you stepped into a facilitator's shoes?
Does daily count stand-up? When I was thinking about last time I did it, I actually, like on the job, it's daily business. But the most interesting experience for me was outside of office, actually, when I did once planning with my family, when we were looking at the backlog of the tasks and stories that we have. And that was about very much enabling the children, especially to take this accountability, responsibility for the things that we have to do at home. And it was very interesting. So somehow it looks like it works also for kids and not only in the business environment.
I'm laughing because I also did the same experiment a couple of years ago together with my kids. I wouldn't consider the experiment to be too successful, as it somehow worked out. We tried to invite them also into the responsibility, but we're still working on it. We're still practicing.
Okay.
So, but you said like you're every day stepping into this facilitator shoes. When I look before in my calendar, I also noticed, hey, there's a lot of facilitation that I bring in as a perspective, as a role into a system, into a group of people. For example, last week we had an event with 60, 70 people. And so I brought in the perspective, how can we involve and engage everyone during these 2 hours? How can we make every voice being heard and still bring in content? So this is a recent example from my calendar. When was last time that you organized something a bit bigger, or what is the story that you have to share?
I think one of the recent examples was our team kickoff, where for me it's an experience where, because I love the preparation part of the designing workshop, so it's a lot of things that should, like different perspectives that should come together. And also somehow for me it's important that people bring the 100% of themselves, like not only the business personality, but also a bit of private things into the business. I believe it helps us to communicate better and on a different, deeper level. And for example, there was usually when I do the kickoffs, there is a check-in or something where people share something private. Something challenge usually is that they should, if they work, for example, together for a longer time, and I joined as a new Scrum Master and team coach, I invite them to share something that other people don't know yet. And if they work like 15 years together, it might be interesting. And after that time, people still can learn something about team members. That always amazes me. And I love when it happens that people come together closer, even after a while, since working together. Yeah.
I can feel your passion when you speak about bringing people together. So there's something that definitely both of us share. And so when you look at facilitation, so for you it's everyday business. For me, it's everyday business. If you would consider a leader within an organization who has maybe heard of facilitation, but it's unsure, okay, how can facilitation help my organization to thrive? What's your take on that?
Mm-hmm. So do I get your question right when I reframe it a bit? What do you need to know? What kind of person you should be in order to be?
Yeah, for example, maybe it's a great starting point.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me think. I think curiosity is part of it, because I'm always curious on how the whole thing will work, because there's always a plan and there is a reality. And I think it's cool when you are adventurous and you like to, plan things, but still you are ready for, the things getting out of the control, or it's kind of a creative thing for me. So if you want to be creative on the daily business, on the daily basis, then it's definitely something you can start doing.
So this curiosity as an element. Yeah, I definitely agree. So this is a great starting point. Also asking yourself the question as a leader, how, what does this organization need to thrive, and how can I facilitate it? How can I create a setup, a structure, a process where the organization actually can find solutions for these usually complex problems, and sometimes even unsolvable problems?
Well, imagine if you can be the person who helps bring people from the meeting feeling like, another one, to, hey, we finally get together and we can create stuff, we can define something together.
So
This
it's
is
not only about these, it's not about the really tangible outcomes. From my point of view, it's also exactly what you're describing, this emotional, this state of mind after a session, after a workshop.
Yeah, I truly believe that when we are at this kind of state, we are definitely making better decisions, coming to better solutions or ideas. And if a facilitator can do that, then it's definitely a first step to thrive as an organization. We start from the team and go forward. Yeah.
So we said curiosity, which was also bringing in a bit, kind of raising the positivity in the system, right, in the organization. Earlier, you said something about planning. So as a facilitator, also, I usually am prepared for task at hand. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience with preparing a workshop, preparing a setting?
I think it's also one of the good feedbacks when I hear, you are always prepared. And for me, it means when I'm preparing, it's definitely I'm thinking about the structure, how the whole workshop or whatever it is should look like. And there is like always the beginning. There is part where we exchange the ideas, and there should be also a closure. So there is a structure. It's not like we are there and it's somehow works. There should be a process or a structure. And everyone ideally should understand why we're here, why this call. There should be a purpose. And it's always cool to come and already when we are doing this call or meeting, ask each other, hey, what are your expectations? Because sometimes you prepare, but people still expect something else.
So there's two things that I'm hearing you say. It's like, as a leader, if I want to kind of take my organization onto this journey, it's like, if you organize something, if there's a meeting, if it's a workshop, if it's something recurring, think of, why are we here? And then also, secondly, make transparent the expectations that we have for the time we spend together. Is there something else that you do to prepare?
I think also it's important to think about who are the participants, because sometimes the meeting can be, we come together, but there is someone else who is important and should be here, or there are people who not necessarily should be here, and the dynamic in the bigger groups is different. So always keeping it as small as possible, but as big as needed, right? And I always create for myself, especially in case it is a bigger, longer workshop, facilitator guide, I call it, like where it's really written how long each activity should go. And also in case I need to prepare some flip charts or something, I also put it, so not keeping the stuff in my mind, but really having it written as a plan, which can always, in reality look differently for sure.
So it's not you do not come unprepared. It sounds to me like you're really prepared before a workshop. So just as a, I don't know, rule of thumb for a half-day workshop, how much time do you invest in preparing the workshop?
Interesting question, because for me it's really like a process. I start with a high level, let's say, thinking about the purpose and what could be the possible structure, and then I leave it to settle in, and I start maybe in another week even, so maybe, I don't know, half an hour, 1 hour to brainstorm and come all together, the structures, the liberating structures, what could be that I might use, and then I like even to talk to someone to get the feedback, like some stranger who is not in this topic, because it's always cool to, it helps me a lot to get the impression, is it something that might work, or usually I get very valuable inputs. So I would say all in all, it depends on the complexity, if I did it before or it's something brand new. It could be even one day that I would invest in it, but it's, I'm talking really about something bigger.
Do you also take care of the, like when the workshop is done, of bringing all the information, like the post-workshop information, getting together the action items? To me, because like I have two views on it. Sometimes I consciously do it, and sometimes I consciously also give the responsibility to the group. Do you have one way how you go about it?
Yeah, I'm laughing because it's exactly the dilemma I would say that I still have, because for me the essence of like why we did something is that something will change, and usually we are when we are at the end of the workshop, we have action items or something that's actionable, ideally, right? And then the question is, how far do I go in order to do something with it? So usually I think the best is when really the change happens, when we define who is doing and what exactly until what date. That's like the framework that I use. And usually, I would say 50-50. Sometimes I will come back to people and say, hi, how is it going? Sometimes when we do like a retro, the next time, and we see together, hey, there was nothing done. Hey, what did we learn from it? So there is always a learning, even when no one did something. Yeah, we understood something.
While listening to you, I had this memory of when working with organizations. I noticed there's all this constant pressure or kind of expectations on that. Hey, if there's a workshop, we need to have action items, right? We need to have something tangible after the time that we spent together. And I just a couple of minutes ago, or before our recording here, I was preparing a 2-day workshop, and I noticed, also discussing with the co-facilitator, hey, how do we want to handle this pressure? Because we're sensing this pressure of, hey, we're spending some valuable time together. We have to get something out of it at the end. And for me, the reflection was like, how can we change that that it's easier also for the participants to enjoy the experience and just trust the process without this fear of, oh, hey, we need to have action items because else the workshop was a complete waste of time. Do you know the situation with these expectations? And if yes, how do you go about it?
Like the pressure, if we are together, then something should happen. I would say it depends on the goal, because sometimes it could be a learning that we do, or maybe, for example, if we do a workshop on feedback, how do we get feedback to each other? Then I think the important already happened if we gave feedback to each other during the session. And if we are there to define something and really change something, we can also, why not do it in the session itself, to already leave it with the tangible result, not the action item, but the result.
Okay. So if we circle back to the question I asked a bit earlier on, so as a leader, you want to leverage the facilitation skills to help your organization thrive. So we talked about curiosity. We talked about thinking also the energy that you want to bring in, and kind of the outcome from the participant's point of view, the energy, also emotional wise. We talked about preparing. So it's not just kind of, oh, I have a workshop in 5 minutes, let's get on to it. So, okay, there's serious work. Let me prepare it. Let's define what is the purpose of the workshop? Why are we here? What are the expectations? And then we also talked about the after the workshop, kind of summarizing the results. What would be a good starting point for somebody that they can do, like right afterwards, something where they do not have to ask anyone for permission? What is an easy step for somebody to start
Facilitating?
Yes. Yeah.
Like my toolkit where I started is, first of all, I call it legalization as a facilitator. For example, I'm a team member, never did it, and suddenly I come there and say, hey, here are the sticky notes, write something on them. Might be a surprise for others. And every time I join a new group, I always ask for permission, or you can call it how you want. So I explain what will happen, and I also get the commitment check of the group. Hey, how are you with what is going to happen? Me as a facilitator. So it helps then during the workshop with situations like, why are we doing this? Who are you? And so on, because you can be new facilitator and different questions can come up. So this helps me a lot to build like this first working agreements with the group.
But I'm hearing there a possible conflict of interest, right? So if you really as a leader want to step into the role of a facilitator, which you said earlier, it's kind of more neutral, but at the same time, you as a leader, you also feel responsible maybe for the outcome of the workshops. And any tips how one could resolve this conflict of interest?
That's definitely there, because I have, like, when I do the facilitation, I have had as a team coach and a facilitator hat, which are usually different things. And sometimes I actually do say, hey, I'm now stepping out of my facilitator hat and putting on my Scrum Master hat. And there is a part of theory that you have to know. For example, there is some teaching involved. And then I'm coming back to this neutral facilitator role, because it's definitely there. This balance of giving the responsibility to people, but sometimes there are situations where you need to support and serve in order to help them get the results. Yeah.
Okay. So this is kind of really being explicit in from which role you are currently speaking.
Switching
So now
the
I'm
roles. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I'm curious to know. Yeah. I wanted to ask what are your tools, how you go with this situation?
So there's two things. One is you get an expert like you from the outside, bring this person in that is really neutral, right, and can support you, and also kind of train or practice with you as a team, as a group, the skill. So it's not rocket science. This would be once I bring somebody in, or the other option is, why not make it a rotating role, so that it is normal that in the team we have this double role of a facilitator. And even though if you're maybe not the expert, I notice, at least in the teams that I work with, like I'm like the go-to facilitator based on my skill set. But we even switch up this role from time to time, and it's easy so that somebody just pays attention to the time, somebody who pays attention to, hey, are we going in circles? So some teams I work with, we have these patterns that we go in circles and circles. So anyone can ask this question. Just take this perspective. Hey, are we still on target? Is this conversation adding to the value of the time we spent together, or is it detracting? And just reflecting this back. So external facilitator, external meaning external of the team, or the second one, just kind of also making it a rotating role.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that some even coming together when we talk about feedback, for example, that's definitely really cool. And I can also be the participant in order to really get the feedback and step out of the facilitator role. That's definitely a cool option.
So bringing it again just to the theme of our coffee talk today, how facilitation can help leaders that their organization is thriving. So we said kind of introducing, you said making this explicit that you now will practice as a facilitator. Do you have another idea? What is something that one can do to bring,
like the basic toolkit?
Yeah, for example.
Timebox is always something that goes hand in hand with me. I think it's always like a professional distortion that I do it also outside of my
Timeboxes. Tell our listeners a bit more about Timeboxes. You're laughing. I also have some stories now going on why you're laughing. But can you tell us a bit more about this tool of timeboxing?
So Timebox is basically when you have a certain amount of time, the maximum amount of time that is needed in order to do a letter, for example. And I'm laughing because it's the topic that I think causes reactions and emotions the most. And it's also, for me, very interesting to read the feedback after the session where it's written Timebox was to the point or Timebox was too strict. So it's very much different from the background, from the personal expectations of people. And another thing when I'm laughing, why Timebox, I feel it's really going with me everywhere, because I tend to tell the kids, hey, we have 5 minutes to go, or like, yeah, it's really everywhere. Sometimes I think maybe I should do it a bit less outside of my work.
So, at least in my experience, time boxes are easy to use, but kind of hard to master? And any tips, any considerations when working with time boxes?
How to master or how to implement it. So there should be, again, a balance of sticking to it. So really we have a time box and it's made transparent for everyone. There is a certain amount of time and we are not going and staying after that. I think you can't do it really like super strict with the timer, but you can also give responsibility to the team or the group that you're working with, because everyone in the room can say, hey, Elmo, yeah, enough, let's move on, for example. That also helps with the time boxing. If not only me feel, if someone else feels this, hey, we actually can move on now. And sometimes I even bring it as a rule before we start, talk about the rules for the day and bring it up there. Then it also a help for the facilitator. It's sort of decentralized.
Decentralized decision making, really kind of inviting the team.
Time boxing, yeah.
Time boxing, okay. But also yeah. I would say kind of inviting the team, the group, the participants who step into responsibility for their experience. Yes. Okay. Hey, time is going way too fast, Daria. As always, I would like to wrap this conversation up slowly. What is, if somebody's not curious about facilitation, and at least I love books, what is a book tip that you have for our listeners as a good starting point?
On my side, the books is always in the pipeline, and my Bible of facilitation is from Michael Wilkinson. The name I should check, but basically it's the I think it's group facilitation, or how to make the best of group facilitation by
I'm going to link it below, so it doesn't matter.
Cool.
Okay. So now we have the book. Check. I'm a huge fan also of trainings, of experiencing new things. Do you have a recommendation for a training?
Yes, for sure. Something that I did myself, and it was the lifesaver at that time. I think it's really a very practical training. It's called Agile Team Facilitation from Agile Consortium. I definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Okay. And the last tip, as always, it's all the conversations I'm having, liberating structures. You mentioned it once, but liberating structures are a great starting point, and they can support you as a basic facilitator. Like if you're brand new and just kind of learning how to become more effective as a facilitator, or leveraging facilitation skills as a leader. And it supports you if you're an advanced facilitator, if you go into strategy, complexity. So liberating structures are not only a toolkit, but also a design language to structure the way people interact with each other. So we have a book, we have a training, we have a toolkit. Maybe as the last question, Daria, if you look back now on your journey and your experience as a facilitator, what is something that you have changed your mind on?
Interesting question. Something I changed my mind on. Yeah, when I started, I never talked about the rules, for example. I thought, hey, I just go and we will see. And I think it's really tiny bit of time that you invest at the very beginning that helps a lot a group understand how we communicate together in this time we are. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much, Daria. And I highly appreciate that you took the time for this conversation, this informal, not prepared conversation, and for your courage. And I hope talking to you soon.
Thanks very much, Christian, for inviting me, and my pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Tama.
Bye-bye.